Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's Astrology News Report, an alternate view of world events as seen through the lens of Vedic astrology. Presented by yours truly, Ron Berger. Today is January 3rd, 2021. In this segment, we'll take a look at what's coming up in the zodiac for January 2021. But before we begin, a note to all viewers. The weekly videos on this channel are available to people who donate to the channel. You are watching the once-a-month free public video. If you would like to have access to the upcoming month's weekly reports, stick around for the link at the end of this video to make your donation. Thanks. 2021 gets off to a dramatic start. Two powerful planetary patterns with quite different natures are manifesting in two different sectors of the zodiac. First, we have Saturn conjunct Jupiter in sidereal Capricorn. Capricorn is one of the signs ruled by Saturn. A planet in its own sign is strong both for the planet and for the sign's significations. Saturn is the planet of experience and maturity. Capricorn is the sign of practical goals and tangible results. So, this pattern suggests a deliberate, planned approach to solving problems. The addition of Jupiter's energy to the Saturn in Capricorn combination helps Saturn because, as the planet of faith and optimism, Jupiter gives Saturn the confidence that it will succeed in achieving its goals. Jupiter, the planet of wisdom, combined with Saturn's maturity, helps us to move forward in a responsible manner. On another level, Jupiter is truth and law, and Saturn is the established order. Their combined energies indicate accomplishing things by using established societal and political structures. The other powerful planetary pattern now in play is Mars transiting in Aries, where it has joined up with Uranus, which has been transiting in this sign since 2017. Just like Saturn in Capricorn, Mars is also in its own sign and therefore strong. It's the planet of energy and action in the sign of initiative and self-reliance. Both Mars and Aries have a fiery nature. Both are dynamic and fast-acting. Both are hasty and impulsive. Mars joining with Uranus puts together the planet of action and the planet of rebellion. Uranus is the planet of freedom, inspiration, and sudden events. Uranus combined with Mars produces a very spirited, bold, excited energy that can be rash, disruptive, and potentially even violent. Now comes the interesting part. These two patterns, Saturn plus Jupiter in Capricorn and Mars plus Uranus in Aries, are in a rather problematic relationship with each other, called mutual kendra in Vedic astrology, or what is commonly known in Western astrology as the square aspect. This pattern manifests as two energy combinations operating at cross purposes to each other, and is made worse by the fact that the two primary factors, Saturn and Mars, are quite opposite and antithetical to each other. Saturn in Capricorn is responsible, cautious, and wants to uphold the established order. Mars in Aries is all about taking action and is impatient for results. So, how is this likely to manifest in world events? Well, notice that this awkward energy pattern will be at its height right at the time that the Trump administration is leaving office and the Biden administration is taking over. Trump is not a willing partner in this turnover of power. the transition has not been going smoothly. From the looks of things, the struggle will actually intensify as the fateful day arrives. Notice that on January 20th, Inauguration Day, Mars will be exactly conjunct Uranus, and the Moon joins in, adding even more energy. Should be at the least exciting, and at the worst explosive. So, what happens in a person's chart with this pattern? Well, here's an example, the chart of Joe Biden. See that the Mars-Uranus combo is transiting in his 6th house, the house of struggle and difficulties. According to the rules of Vedic astrology, Mars transiting in the 6th house of problems and enemies is good. It gives you the power to solve your problem and defeat your enemy. Trouble is, Mars in this position also gives you the difficulty and or the enemy in the first place. Meanwhile, the Saturn-Jupiter transit is affecting Biden's 3rd house, the house of making efforts and daily operations. Having the planet of longevity, in other words, persistence, in the 3rd house of making efforts is good, especially when boosted by the planet of confidence. Unfortunately, Saturn is also the planet of delay, which tends to prolong the struggle. Note that for both transits in this chart, natal planets are being affected, which makes all of this a lot more complicated and more likely to create contradictory events for Mr. Biden. I'll have a more complete analysis on what all this signifies in a forthcoming report. Moving on now to other planetary patterns in January. Mercury is going to be spending most of this month in sidereal Capricorn, entering Capricorn on January 4th. Mercury is the planet of the intellect, the planet of rational, linear thinking. Mercury is the planet of facts and information, the planet of communications, speech, and writing. Mostly this is a good thing. It's the planet of ideas and reasons in the sign of practical goals, responsibility, management of resources, and support for traditional values. Mercury in Capricorn adds another component to the Saturn-Jupiter combination. Mercury plus Saturn equals serious thinking, deliberate thinking. Saturn, as the planet of longevity, combined with Mercury, the planet of making decisions, means that things that get decided during this time period will have long-term consequences. Note that the Georgia Senate runoff election and the U.S. Congress certifying the election of Joe Biden both happen right after Mercury enters Capricorn. In the last week of January, Mercury proceeds into Aquarius and then begins a retrograde period, the first Mercury retrograde of 2021, at the end of January. I'll be putting out a full report on that at the end of January. Venus goes into sidereal Sagittarius on January 3rd. Venus spends most of January in Sagittarius. Venus in this sign boosts the natural, gregarious, fun-loving Sagittarius qualities. But the planet of love and agreement is not at its best in an ego-centered fire sign, especially Sagittarius, a sign devoted to its own beliefs, which makes finding agreement through compromise pretty difficult. Although this sign is friendly, Sagittarius is an independent, willful sign, ill-equipped for the sacrifice required for true love. Venus stays in Sagittarius until the last week of January. Then, on January 27th, Venus moves into Capricorn, where it joins up with the train wreck of planets happening in that sign. But at least Capricorn is a more sensible, practical sign, and less selfish than Sagittarius. Rahu and Ketu are the nodes of the moon, the crossover points of the apparent paths of the sun and the moon as seen from the earth. These are the eclipse points. In Vedic astrology, they are both classed as natural malefics, in other words, capable of doing harm. They kind of jerk along in the zodiac, sometimes hanging out on 1 degree for a couple of months or more. The midpoint of the Rahu-Ketu axis is a particularly dangerous degree for any planet. It's one of the potholes of the zodiac where planets experience stress and therefore brings out the worst of any planet transiting in that area. During January, Neptune will be occupying the midpoint of the nodes. This was also the case in December. The extended stay of Neptune at this degree is due to the planet being stationary at the end of its retrograde period. Neptune is the planet of fantasy, illusions, deception, and confusion. These qualities will form a background pattern to everything else that is going on during this month, contributing a sense of unease and doubt, despite whatever positive things are happening. There's another rather odd planetary pattern that forms in January. When all of the planets are clumped on one side of the zodiac, with Rahu and Ketu forming the leading and trailing edge of the pattern, we have what in Vedic astrology is called a Kalasarpa yoga. This planetary pattern is famous as a malefic combination that puts restrictions on the other planets, obstructing them from manifesting. They have to overcome the karmic energy of the nodes because they are all corralled behind the barrier formed by the Rahu-Ketu axis. The Kalasarpa continues until the moon breaks it by moving into Taurus, which will be on January 22nd. Now, notice that the Biden and Harris inauguration will take place while this yoga is still in effect. In other words, the birth chart of the Biden administration will have a Kalasarpa yoga in it. This is significant. I'll be doing a full report on the birth chart of the Biden administration in a couple of weeks. Okay, so there's a brief look at planetary patterns for January 2021. And now a reminder, you have been watching Astrology News Reports once a month free public video. If you would like to see the next 4 weekly reports, donate $20 by clicking on or touching the donation card you see at the end of this video, which will take you to the donation page. If $20 for a month is too much for you, you can donate $10. The link to each week's report will be sent to you via your email. Here's a description of what's coming up in the January videos. January 10th, predictions for the USA Saturn subperiod. January 17th, an analysis of the Biden administration birth chart. January 24th, the train wreck of planets in Capricorn in January and February. January 31st, a preview of February, including an analysis of the Mercury retrograde period. You'll not want to miss out on all these great upcoming videos, so here's the link for your donation. Just click or touch the card, which will take you to the donation page. If the card does not appear or doesn't work, you can find the link in the comment section. Thank you, and until next week.